Okay, so today's going to be carburetor day. I got basically what I've got here. I've taken this one apart. This is one. That's going to be the parts carburetor for this one. This one, that's going to be the parts carburetor for it. These look like they were rebuilt. They've got warranty stickers on them, and they're a lot cleaner than the other two. The first thing that I do rebuilding a quadrijet is check these base plates, and I'm going to turn this off and put you on a tripod so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. But this carburetor right here was rebuilt and sold to somebody with a junk base plate, and these can be fixed. You can put bushings on them, and they didn't bother doing that, so they resold this carburetor, and they didn't do a very good job of. They didn't. To me, they really didn't rebuild it. Anyway, that's the first thing I do. I find out whether I've got a solid base plate, and I haven't taken these apart yet, so I don't know what kind of shape they're in. It could be that I'm going to be screwed for enough to be able to put a couple of these together, but we need a couple of carburetors. The new engines are going to have new carburetors on them, but the two that we're going to put back together, it's mix and match parts anyway, so we need a couple carburetors. So let me shut this off. I'll put you on a tripod and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about with these base plates. Alrighty, what I'm talking about is if you take these base plates on a board set up like this, and you go up and down with this movement right here will cause these throttle plates to jam inside here, and are having problems with both sides. Both sides are doing this. From the accelerator back and forth, it elongates these holes, and like I said, you can get bushings and redo these base plates and rebuild them. They didn't do that here, so that right there would cause all kinds of problems. And what it's doing right now, right there, it's hung up. It's got a spot right there, it's hanging up, and if you try to kick in the back two barrels, those throttle plates are hanging up inside here like these front ones will do. So what happens is you rebuild the whole damn carburetor, you put it on the car, and the car runs perfect. You come back and you start the car up and it runs like shit, and you're like, well, why is it doing that? That's why. These throttle plates will get hung up in here, where your idle circuit, you've got a I don't know, you're not going to be able to see this, but you have an idle circuit. You have holes underneath these throttle plates, and they drip, and that's what keeps the car running at idle. When the throttle plate's cracked, it utilizes a second hole right there, which is just off a throttle, before the vacuum can take effect and then feed it, like a suction straw type of deal. If these stick like that, where they stick open, it's just going to run like crap. Like I said, you're going to have 1 minute you're going to have a high idle, the next minute it's going to idle down so low the thing stalls out. And if you guys have played with these, I'm sure you've probably had that happen. You work on the car and you set it up and everything, and it runs perfect. You shut it off and you start it back up, and the thing won't idle and it stalls, and or you've got a high idle, or back and forth. You're chasing your ass is what you're doing. So that's why that happens. So I'll shut you down and I'll bring you back when I take these other two apart and see if they're going to be candidates for parts. Okay, bring you back in a minute. Okay, once again, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. I'll try to hold this up and show you using the screen on the camera. If you look at the top that came off this carburetor, the horn is broke off. Right here is where the accelerator pump goes back and forth, pivots. One side of that is broke off, so the top of this is useless, and that's why I've got the parts cart back here. It's got a good one. Ryan robbed parts off of both of these, That's why he took the float and the accelerator pump out of this one, because that was broke. I would have just taken the top off of that one and put it on here. But it's pretty good that he didn't, because his base plate, like I said, he'd have been chasing his ass. This needs to be fixed. So I'll bring you back. A lot of guys have problems finding the numbers on these too. If this car was setting like this would be the back, this would be the front. If you look at this right here, the number reads right across the edge of this. That's where the part number is on here, that if you want to get the rebuilt specifically for the carburetor. That's another thing I'm having problems with. Really why, we'll see how this goes. The last carburetor I rebuilt was 3-4 years ago, and I got really pissed off because nobody sells a complete rebuild for these anymore. You buy a rebuild, then you have to buy a float separate, you have to buy an accelerator pump separate, and what really pissed me off when I got home, the accelerator pedals, the accelerator little pumps, they're not rubber anymore. They've got so much plastic in them that they're junk. So that really pissed me off. Thankfully, I've got a lot of parts. I've got a lot of stuff in rebuild kits I haven't used. So I'm just going to have to go through everything, and I'm hoping these two, I may be better off using the parts carburetors for rebuilds the way things are looking, but we'll see what happens. And I know a lot of you guys have done rebuild videos and stuff like that. Mr. Heavy Chevy was one that did a real good video on rebuilding these, and I learned from that video. And you never know, you could watch somebody's video. I think there's something to learn from everybody. I was told once in college, if you've heard this a million times and you're sitting here for 20 minutes and you think you're wasting that 20 minutes, if one thing is talked about that you haven't heard, then it was worth the 20 minutes. And that's true. So I'll bring you guys back when I got something else. Okay, I really sped up here. I want to break this down so the guys that don't know this stuff and want to know it will. The guys that do know this, if you don't want to watch this, turn it off. You're not hurting this old man's feelings, okay? If you can see that hole right that I'm pointing at with the screwdriver, let me take these glasses off, man. I can see better without them sometimes. Okay, if you can see that hole that I'm pointing at, where is this? Where am I? There we go. You can see that hole right there that I'm pointing at with the screwdriver. That's the air bleed. The idle circuit is that slot right there. Okay, so when this throttle plate is closed, it's resting on that right there, and there's enough gas coming through there to idle this car. When you take off, just off idle, this cracks open just above that. Engine vacuum takes over. The accelerator pump, which is right on this one, this lever right here, when you squash the accelerator, this pulls this down, this comes down and squeezes that right there. There's a like a plunger in here, squashes down and squeezes gas in there just off of takeoff. If you've got a hesitation with these quadrajets, usually that's what the problem is. This accelerator pump is junk. So I'm going to try to break this down. Like I said, for the guys that don't know, the guys that do know, watch something else. You're not going to hurt my feelings. So I'm going to try to do this so that somebody that hasn't done it before might attempt it. I'll bring you guys back. Okay, so this will be the flip side of where the plunger sets. Okay, like I was saying, up here on this one, this is what this little seat right here would be in the top of this carburetor right here. Okay, when you pull that off, that plunger sets right down in here. So when you squash this down, it squeezes gas into the venturis, and that's before the car is moving. That's to get the car moving. Once the car is moving, like I said, gravity takes over. The siphon effect is what I call it. The float sets right here. When I get into these other two carburetors, I can show you all that. That's the parts that have been robbed out of this, but this is where the accelerator pumps stick. Most of the time, if you've got to hesitate, the reason Quadrajet's got a bad name, Quadrajunk. Most of the time, if you've got a hesitation, it's because this accelerator pump has gotten old and isn't doing what it's supposed to. Either that or your float's not adjusted. That's been my experience. I'll bring you guys back when I've got something else. Let me say this too. Every carb out there has got its own quirks and characteristic. Holley's got their problems, but Holley's a good carburetor. The only carburetors that have given me any trouble personally were Mikuni's. I just, for some reason, I just couldn't get them right. But that's another story. I'll bring you guys back when I start busting into these other ones. I've got the numbers wrote down over here for the rebuilds, and I can start that happy little cluster. Alrighty, I'll bring you back when I got something else. Now, I just noticed he's got all kinds of carburetor boxes up here. He may have everything I need. I'm gonna have to talk to him. Looks like the battery's getting ready to go dead in this. I'll probably just go ahead and post this as a video. Let me swing this around. I'll probably just go ahead and post this as a video. I'm gonna start trying to put up a video every day of this how-to stuff. Our early videos and stuff I explained. I've been to college for mechanics and stuff. I know a lot of stuff, and I need to be doing this. Some how-to videos and stuff. That's why I started YouTube, is to do that. Me and Ryan have so much fun out here just screwing around that it kind of turned into whatever it turned into. But he's learned so much and knows so much now, and he's a grown-ass man. He doesn't need me for anything. He can do anything he needs to do. But we have fun screwing around with this stuff. So I'll probably go ahead and post this video, just getting started on this stuff. And like I said, I'm gonna try to do a video every day on some of this stuff. The carburetor stuff, you know, if you're running carburetors and you're still using carburetors, it may be useful information. But with fuel injection and stuff like that, I almost feel like what I know is useless. And I said that to Ryan last night. He looked at me and he goes, "Well, you know fuel injection too." And yeah, I do. So, somewhere around here I've got some fuel injection stuff. But anyway, I have never been through an automatic transmission with him either. He reminded me of that. And we need a couple automatic transmissions for the same two motors I was talking about. So at some point we're going to be going through a couple of transmissions too, probably. So anyway, I'll go ahead and post this, and hopefully it's going to be some useful information to somebody. Anyway, let me shut it off, and I'll bring you guys back tomorrow and you know, show you where I'm at.